Hello everybody and welcome. This is the last video in my 2022 December daily series. I cannot believe we have come to an end, but alas we have. In fact, I am going to do one more video. I will have a complete flip through of the album so you guys can see it in its entirety. But today we're actually going to be finishing up by doing days 24 and 25. I had originally thought about splitting these up, but I decided to just keep it together. So again, just a little bit longer of a video this time around. All right, so for day 24, I'm using the embellishments that May Your Day Be Merry and Bright, that rectangle embellishment, and I'm using that to kind of help create this design for this page. This was an embellishment that came out, I believe, in the 2021 kit, or at least with the December Daily 2021 supplies. And I really loved it. I think there were 3 that was included. I may have already used one another year. I can't now remember exactly. But I remember that year there was a lot of people, they were doing the 6x8 album and they were doing a full page where they were including those rectangles. And then they also were doing some other things that were corresponding with the rectangle. And I wanted to do something very similar, but just based on the size of my album, I knew it would have to be a different design. And so I chose to have it go from one page to the next, and I'm just doing it all in a row. So you can see that I've already printed out my journaling onto the right-hand page. Now, how I do that is I set everything up in Photoshop or Illustrator, whatever I'm using at the time. And, you know, I do all the measurements. I know exactly where it's going to go. And then I print everything out. You can also see that I'm doing a couple things here to aid in making sure that I get everything in the right place. So it's really interesting when you're doing something that's very graphic like this. I feel like I'm a little bit more particular in wanting it to be in the exact right place, wanting there to be the same gutter around all the photos, just because it's so graphic in nature. So you don't need to be this precise. You don't need to use a ruler, but I definitely I wanted to make sure that they were all aligned. And then I am using the magnets to help hold down my paper. So the board that I'm using underneath, or the cutting mat, it actually is magnetic, and it's really awesome in that it's letting me hold the paper down so it's not shifting around. You could definitely use washi tape for something like that. But anyway, those 2 things are really helping me get this where I want it to be. And then I am just making some markings, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to cut that down. So really, the day is done. Well, that's not true. There is one more piece that I want to add. I wasn't originally thinking that I was going to add some pattern paper, but I felt like there was just too much white space on the left, so I do end up grabbing a pattern paper. If I had realized that, I think I would have shifted everything to the right so there wasn't such a big gap on the right side with the edge in that photo. I probably would have shifted that so it was all the way to the edge, because what you'll see is once I start punching the holes, I end up having to punch through some of the words. Not necessarily that big of a deal, but if I had realized how it was going to be situated, or that I was going to add another piece to it, I definitely would have done that. So I just grabbed over some pattern paper that came with, I believe it came in the kit this year. I do apologize. It has been so long and there's been so many kits. It's hard for me to remember what kit it actually came from, but obviously you could use any kit, any paper that you have. I was trying to find one that was a little subtle and definitely one that had more white and red in it. I definitely wanted to keep this a little bit more white and red. I am looking through my numbers. That's just what you saw. I think you saw that in my last video as well, kind of how I'm holding my numbers in plastic bags. At least that's what I'm doing for now. And then I grabbed over this small number. This is acrylic number that I made. If you guys would be interested in these numbers, please let me know. This might be something that I think I've probably said this before, but definitely something that I would consider making and selling. But honestly, I'm not sure, because if there's like a ton of people that want it, I'm trying to figure out the logistics of it, just because I'm not like a shop, you know? So anyway, but if you are, let me know. And then it's something that I would definitely consider for the future. I really love the numbers. The numbers are one of my favorite parts of December Daily. So anyway, putting that aside, and we're moving on. So essentially the day is done and I just need to punch the holes. But what ended up happening when I realized that I need to punch the holes now is I was going to be punching in these really strange spots onto the photo, and I was not happy with it at all. So I actually ended up remaking it. I know it sounds insane because I had to print my journaling and then rip stuff apart and then put it back on. But essentially that's what I did. And you can kind of see, you'd probably have to go back to really notice it, but it was farther down on the page and now it is dead center. And that's just because of the hole punches. And of course, like always, it's not something that I was thinking about as I was putting it together. And I definitely should. That's one of the reasons why I created that file that had, you know, it was like the outline of the album and then where the holes were. And I did that so that I would use it as I was creating stuff. And for whatever reason, when I was putting this together, I did not actually use that file. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's just a file that I have on my Etsy. If you're interested, it will cut out various sizes of albums on your silhouette. So like a 6x8, this is just a piece of paper, not the actual album, but it will cut a 6x8, a 10x8, 4x6, and then a 4¼ by 5½ album. It will cut the actual paper with the holes, and it corresponds with the album from Ali and other manufacturers. So anyway, that's what I was talking about. But I've had people say, like, why would you use this other than cutting out the paper so it fits in your album? I like to use it when I'm designing stuff like this because then I know exactly where the holes are going to line up. At any rate, let's move on to day 25 because that is what I'm working on right now. You saw on day 24, I was just kind of looking at ways I'm going to embellish it, and I do come back to that. So let's just jump to 25 and what I'm doing on the screen. So I have got I've got a collage of photos that was from that day. And then I have adhered it down onto a piece of paper that has gone through, it's got an embossing folder through it. This is from Spellbinders. I think this is one of my all-time favorite embossing folders I've ever owned. I love it so much. And I don't think it's available anymore, you guys, but if I can find something similar, I will definitely link it. If I can find it, I will, but I was just on this site a couple of weeks ago and I just could not find any of the Christmas stuff from last year. So I definitely think it's sold out, unfortunately. So anyway, I'm also looking at some transparency that I want to put on top of it, on top of that photo, on top of that page. And I'm thinking about using the star that I created. So the one thing about making these acrylic pieces, I've learned, especially when you're making it small, like sometimes there is a too small and I forget like how thin this laser can cut and how delicate everything is. So when it cut out that star with the 25 in the middle, I can't remember if that little piece broke off or if it just lasered right through it, and it's possible that it lasered right through it. But anyway, you'll see how I piece it together. Okay, so I've made a few decisions, and what I've decided is I want to have something on the left side, and then I'm gonna have the photos on the right side. So if you remember from my day 18, on the right side of the album, I had the Paislee press file that had all those cool, it was like all that text that I had made, that I had foiled in gold. Well, this is the point. I think this is the point I realized I don't want to use it there because I was kind of going back and forth, but that I wanted to use it on this page here. And I wanted to use it with pink. So I don't know if you've realized, but I've been using, instead of a lot of reds, there are some reds in my album, but I've been trying to use a lot more pinks and creams instead of reds and whites. Like obviously day 24 has white, and I'm not saying that I don't have any white, but I've definitely been trying to use pinks and creams. So this is the file, and I tried using it with this kind of opal foil, and it was really cool, but it did not stand out the way that I wanted it to stand out. And so I am definitely going to be redoing it with white. This turns out stunning, you guys. I absolutely love this. And of course, I cannot get enough of the foil quill. So you can see that I'm using my metal mat. And of course, you don't have to have one of these to be able to use the foil quill. I just think it's so much easier because it cuts down on all the taping you have to do. And of course, it is essential when you are foiling onto photos. Now, I am foiling onto paper, so I definitely could have used tape, but I mean, obviously I'm going to use my mat because I have my mat. But if you are interested in the foil quill, I would definitely encourage you to use the foil quill. All right, so I'm foiling that right now, and it actually took quite a bit of time. You do need to be patient when you're foiling, especially when you're foiling something that is so large like that. So while it's foiling, I'm moving on to something else. I had previously cut this file, and I can't remember if I cut it this year and I just didn't use it on one of the days, or if I had cut it a different year and it's just been sitting in my stash. But this is using a glitter vinyl, I believe is from Cricut. I think it's a Cricut one. And I thought that this would actually be really pretty on top of the transparency that's going to go on top of the photo. So I did finally invest in some strong transfer tape. So you guys, this transfer tape is a game changer in case you were wondering, but I will get back to that because I'm going to show you how amazing this is, you guys. I can't tell you, rewatching this and seeing it on my album, it is stunning and it looks so, so good. You guys, I'm telling you, white on top of a color is so pretty. I definitely think it's really pretty on the brown, on like the paper bag color. Oh, I can't get enough. And this makes me want to foil all the things all over again. So anyway, moving back to this vinyl cutout, like I said, I bought the strong transfer tape, and it's everything that I needed to get my stuff to transfer. I was really, really, really struggling with getting my vinyl to transfer off. I couldn't. I was like, I don't think I can vinyl anymore, because I feel like all the things that I'm vinyling are very small. So the larger things totally will come off, not a problem, especially when it's like a bold type, but something small and cursive, no, it was not happening. So you guys, you're going to see, I'm going to pull this off, and I think I do have to like work out like one little piece. I think it might've been the S, but it comes off so good and it was so amazing. So if you are having issue, like I'm having issue with vinyl coming off, get this strong adhesive. I will have it linked below. It is from Cricut. I feel like I haven't used a ton of it, but I'm already like, I should buy more because I can't have this going out of stock. I just really loved it that much. So now you can see, gosh, you could see how easy that came off, right? So I'm just going to put it on top of the transparency. And of course, like always, I definitely, I'm going to eyeball it, but I want to put it on so it looks straight, right? I want to try and make it so it's in the center. So I am using the photos to kind of center off of, and then I'm just going to put that down. So the transparency that I decided to go with, this came in a December Daily kit also from one of the years. I definitely do not think it was from last year's kit. I've always wanted to use it, and I really love that pop of red with the gold. I think it looks really, really good. All right, so I'm using that card that I decided not to use to help me aid in figuring out exactly where I want to cut this file. So I'm just like holding it up against the text that is there and just trying to figure out exactly where I want it to go. That actually ended up saving me and really helped me figure out where it was going to be centered. And then I'm going to be putting this 25 on. So you can see that there are times that I leave the backer on this acrylic, and there are times that I take it off. So this acrylic actually is a see-through red. They do have some that isn't. And the reason why I did this particular acrylic is because I could get it in 1/16 inch thickness, so it's a lot thinner. I was trying to keep my album from really getting bulky, and so they only had it with this kind of transparent red. And so without the backer, it is a little bit lighter of a red, but you can really see the stuff coming through, and I didn't want that look, so that's why I ended up leaving the backer on it. So it's kind of cool that you could get two different looks depending on what you want to do. And now I'm going to be putting in this piece, and I was really having a struggle getting it in. And so I used the 25 that came out to help me figure out exactly where it needed to go. And then I'm going to pull it out like that game Operation using the tweezers to pull it out. So anyway, love the way this looks. Super happy. I do wish I had made that star just a little bit bigger so it wasn't so delicate, but really happy with how this day turned out. So I think I'm going to wait. I was going to say, am I going to wait to punch the holes? I think I will wait to the very end to punch the holes because I am going to do some journaling for day 25 on the back of where the photos are. So I'm actually going to be using another acrylic piece, but you will see that coming up in just a minute. Right now, I'm trying to decide what color I want to put on the back. I'm kind of set on using that, like I said, brown paper color because the acrylic piece is white. So I will be printing my journaling right on top of this. And this is the acrylic piece. This is actually a file from, I can't now remember, but if I can find it, I will have it linked below. I'm sure it's still available just because it is a digital file. At any rate, this ends up being one of those files, like I said, is very, very delicate. There were pieces on the M that were super thin, and I did one in black and I also did one in red, the same file, and they were just so delicate. I think I ended up breaking the M on the red, and I mean, I could have easily pieced it together when I was gluing it down, but it was just really delicate, and this would actually be so pretty large. But it just, I need to remember that as I'm going to cut things out, how things are going to transfer. And I think sometimes it's really easy to forget that. At any rate, you saw that I took out the carrier sheet, or not the carrier sheet, but whatever was on top of it, the brown paper on top. And then I did my journaling. So this is literally just a list, kind of like a bullet point list of things that happened that day. I can't remember if it was things that made me happy, or I just think it was things that happened that day. And then I'm putting the Mary on top of it, and that is going to round out my day 25. So I have my photos on the front, and then I will have my journaling on the back. And I'm using this liquid glue. I love this liquid glue. You guys are going to want this liquid glue because it's so great, and it's not that expensive for how much you are actually getting. And if you do get some on the side, it actually dries clear, which is really, really nice. But I'm just going to adhere this down, and it holds this acrylic so good. I'm a huge fan of this liquid glue. Anyway, I'm just going to adhere it down, and you guys, that's it for day 25. I want to say it was simple, but I guess it wasn't that simple. There was a lot of pieces, and I ended up using the silhouette twice, but I just am in love with how it turned out. I cannot say enough about that pink with the white on top. I am so glad I decided to do that instead of use the gold. And I will tell you that I am going to show you how I ended up finishing day 18. When I was doing that video, I thought that I had put it together as I was filming, but I just couldn't find the footage, and I found the footage, and I did decide to leave it in this video instead of try and go back and fit it in. So anyway, you guys, that's it for day 25. I just punched the holes. Now I'm putting it in the album. And then I did decide that I wanted to put this Give Love embellishment onto the top there. I believe this also came out in 2023, so is a little bit older of an embellishment. I loved these. I thought they were so beautiful and so delicate and amazing. I love them. So I was happy to be able to use that in this album, and I thought it went really well with that day, just like one pop of gold. And then I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to go through the album. Well, not the whole album, but I'm going to go through until day 18, and I'm going to show you how I'm finishing my day 18. Well, I guess before that, I'm going to show you what days 24 and 25 looked like. So now I'm going to go back to day 18, and there, sure enough, is that page that I ended up I don't want to repeat it. I definitely could. I didn't want to repeat it. So I'm just grabbing over some paper that's just very subtle. It's black and white. I love this paper. I'm a huge fan of the Paislee press paper because they're just so subtle. And so I just love how subtle they are when you're trying to do something that's a little bit more low key. So I'm going to put this on the back of, I guess that's day 19? And then I will trim it up and punch the holes. And then I'm just going to add one little embellishment. That joyful chipboard, it probably came out in this year's kit, or it might have been the Paislee press kit actually. So I'm just going to stick that embellishment on, and I'm literally going to call it good. And I think it looks so great paired with the brown on the left side and that pop of red on the little tab. So you guys, that's it. That is my album, and as promised, I will be back here and I will show you an entire flip through next week. But thank you so much for sticking around, and I hope you guys have had a lot of inspiration. And of course, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below and I will definitely get to them. All right, you guys, we'll see you next week. Bye.